Hey guys, welcome to this channel. I suck at intros, so sorry about that, but I'm glad you're here. And today we are going to go through 10 books that I currently own that I'm going to read this year. 10 books from my bookshelf that I'm going to finally get to this year. This isn't an attempt to kind of halt as much buying of books that I do. It's probably my favorite thing in life to do, so I'm realistically not really going to stop, but I would like to get through the books that I actually own. So this is the plan. I picked out 10 from the shelf here that are going to be read this year. I'm really psyched on all of these. I can't wait to share them with you. And this is the first video in my new setup here. I'm really happy about this. My desk used to be here under this Titanic model, and the reason I moved it is because my view out that window was kind of depressing. It's basically I was just looking at garbage cans and fire escape stairs and all day, and that mixed with the gray skies that we've been having constantly here, I've just been like, listening to a lot of like Midwest emo and just kind of not doing so well. So I moved my desk over here. The view here is so much nicer. The light is so much nicer. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, honestly, but I'm really excited to be over on this side of the office. And I moved my bookshelves here side by side. They just fit behind me here, which is awesome because I can just like flip around here, blah blah blah. It's only been a few days of experiencing my life over on this side of the room, but I'm loving it. So glad you're here. And before I start this, please don't think less of me. I hate to even ask this, but if you enjoy watching this stuff and you want to subscribe, that would be cool. Please don't hate me. Bye. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. Okay, so first one here of the 10 is going to be, now this was actually from my wife's bookshelf, so I don't know if this really counts, but whatever. And that is High Fidelity by Nick Hornby. Now, High Fidelity is a book that I've seen the movie with Jack Black and John Cusack, and I love it. It's super funny, and I'm excited to read the book. I'm hoping the book kind of gives me similar vibes to the movie because, again, I've really enjoyed that. And one reason I'm actually really excited to read this book is it's one of my wife's favorite books of all time. She has this copy here that was kind of hers from high school, and it's the movie cover. It is just so tattered and beaten up here, and my favorite kind of book when you can just tell it's been well loved. Her name is written in here with her old phone number. Just cool. So I thought I'd share that one as well. Cannot wait to read High Fidelity. So that's number one. Number two, we're jumping into The Bee Sting by Paul Murray. Now, The Bee Sting by Paul Murray is a book, I don't know a lick about it, but a lot of people have said that this was their favorite read of last year. When I went to the bookstore, this was on the staff recommendations, and the name of the recommendation was here. And when I checked out, the person whose name it was checking me out, and I was like, "Oh, this is your favorite book," and she had such amazing things to say about it, and was like, "It's kind of dark humor, blah blah blah," and I love dark humor. So The Bee Sting, Paul Murray. I believe this is an Irish author. I've been reading a lot of Irish authors lately, and I'm loving them. You know what I mean? Irish authors, kind of sick, I would say. So Bee Sting is the next one. Now, this one is a piece of literature that I think everybody is supposed to read. If you've ever been to high school in your life, you've probably read it. And I think I was supposed to read it as well, but I don't believe I did. I think I got the Coles notes and just tried to get as much information as possible so that I could answer the questions on the test and just be done. You know what I mean? So, that is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, of course. So, I was going to say, this is my second time recording this because I messed something up. And when I showed this, I was like, this is by, I was like, oh yeah, Harper Lee. How do you not know that? Gotta be Harper Lee. Can't wait to read this one. Quick story about this. My wife and I were thrifting at Value Village, and this exact copy was there, and it was totally beaten up, and it was $4.99, and I was like, you know what, I do want to read this, I'm going to get it anyways. And my wife was like, we have this exact copy at home. This happens to us a lot. And I was like, oh yeah, true. Came home, and on the back here, $7.99, brand new. I know on all these videos I complain about thrift pricing, but it's driving me nuts, It's driving me crazy. Anyway, To Kill a Mockingbird, Harper Lee, cannot wait. Again, piece of literature that I think everybody is supposed to read, so I'm excited to finally be one of those people. Next, okay, so this is the big one. This is a big one. When I first started reading, I was reading a lot of fantasy. I started by reading the ACOTAR series, and then I read the Mistborn trilogy. Then I read all the Lord of the Rings books, and then I was also reading The Dark Tower, and I was reading a few other just random fantasy books mixed in as well. And then I read The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and let me just say, loved The Way of Kings. Loved The Way of Kings. But once I finished it, I was just so fantasied out. I had ingested so much fantasy that I kind of just went in a different direction for quite some time, and I haven't really been reading much of any fantasy as of late for like really the past year. And I have just had the itch to get back into fantasy. I've for the last couple months actually, I've just been like, man, I really miss fantasy. So I'm going to jump back into it with The Words of Radiance, which is book 2 in the Stormlight Archive. And I just can't wait, man. I just can't wait. I can't wait for another Sanderlanche to hit me. And, I think The Words of Radiance, too, is one of the highest rated books ever. I might be wrong, but I want to say, like, The Words of Radiance holds the title on Goodreads of, like, the highest rated book of all time. I could be wrong, but it's up there either way. And what I'm going to do, so Words of Radiance is going to be one. I know I don't own that. I was hoping you wouldn't notice, but yeah, I'm just kind of cheating there. That's why I showed the Way of Kings. But before I read The Words of Radiance, I'm going to read Tress of the Emerald Sea. This book, people rave about it. I can't wait. I bought it right as soon as it came out because I just thought the cover was really pretty, and I thought the title of the book was really pretty, and I was like, I want that on my shelf. And this is, I'm going to read this before The Words of Radiance so that I can kind of dip my toes back into the fantasy world before going to a sizable book like Words of Radiance, and I feel like this is the perfect one to do it with. It's in the Cosmere, but from what I've been told, you can read, like, if you're just getting into fantasy, if you're just getting into Brandon Sanderson and the Cosmere, you can start with this book if you want to, you know what I mean? You totally can. And so I'm going to read this, get kind of readjusted into the fantasy brain, and then read Words of Radiance. And I think this is kind of more of a cozy adventure sort of high seas sailing. I might, again, haven't read it, could be wrong, but yeah, pumped. Tress of the Emerald Sea, yay. I think he wrote that for his wife too. So nice, what a guy. Okay, next up we are going to read The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. Now, if you're new to reading, like me, and you've just kind of been on all the book socials, hearing what other people have to say about Donna Tartt, you've probably heard a billion people talk about The Secret History. It seems like The Secret History, everybody's talking about The Secret History, and I want to read The Secret History, but I don't own it, and I do own The Goldfinch, and I've been told by a lot of people that The Goldfinch is kind of her, like, you know what I mean? So, excited to read this. I want to say, based on the back coming-of-age story, maybe some mystery in there, could be totally wrong, but it does sound right up my alley. It is a pretty chunky book, but excited to read my first Donna Tartt. Her writing is apparently just absolutely beautiful. Winner of the Pulitzer Prize, Donna Tartt, good for you. Okay, so we're going to go to this one next. Shirley Jackson, one of my favorite authors. I've only read 2 of her books, in The Lottery and The Haunting of Hill House, but I loved both of them so much. So we are going to read We Have Always Lived in the Castle. This is a book I've had on my shelf for about a year and a half. It's one of the first books I ever bought when I was going to be like, hey, I'm going to read books. And I still haven't read it. It's a really ominous title, We Have Always Lived in the Castle. I don't know anything about this book other than my kids really love this cover because it's illustrated and these people on the back really scare them. And they like scary stuff. So that's all I know. But Shirley Jackson, there's just something about her books so far that just they make me feel like I'm in a 40s, 50s scary movie. And there's just something oddly comforting about her stories and her writing. So We've Always Lived in the Castle. Very excited. Very excited. Okay, so we've only got 3 left. I'm going to get into 2 nonfictions here. My favorite nonfiction authors so far have been Erik Larson and Donna Tartt. Whoops. Bang. And so did I say Donna Tartt? I think John Krakauer and Erik Larson have been my 2 favorite nonfiction authors to date. So I picked one book from each of them to carry on the list here. I'm going to start with John Krakauer. I just finished Under the Banner of Heaven, and I also read Into the Wild. Absolutely love both of those books. So I'm going to read Into Thin Air. This is about his Everest expedition, I believe, that John Krakauer himself took. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the story is apparently just mind-boggling. Edge of your seat reading. I cannot wait to see what this is all about. Into Thin Air seems like it's going to be, it's a personal account of the Mount Everest disaster. Cannot wait for this one. I honestly cannot wait. John Krakauer's books so far have just hit my brain in such a perfect way. So Into Thin Air is going to be whatever number that is, 8, I want to say, so 9, 10. The Erik Larson book I'm going to read. So the Erik Larson books I have read are In the Garden of Beasts and Dead Wake. Both of them fantastic. Dead Wake is about the Lusitania, which I'm a big Titanic nerd, as you can see, so that one was pretty special to read. I really enjoyed that one. And the next Erik Larson book that I'm going to read is The Devil in the White City. Now, I gotta say, I don't know a single thing about this book, and I've been told just not to look into it. Just start reading it and have your mind blown. So that's what I'm gonna do. that's a pretty highly regarded book, I want to say. I see a lot of people recommend this one online. So yeah, National Book Award finalist. There you go. There you go. The stickers come in handy sometimes. Okay, the final one here. The final one. This is a big one that I am going to. I've kind of gone back and forth on it, but I'm going to commit to reading this book this year. As you know, in a previous video, I read White Nights by Dostoevsky, and I've been trying to get into Russian literature a little bit because I just want to, and because everybody says it's just incredible. You can't live your life without experiencing this. So I am going to commit to reading The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. This is a really cool little mass market paperback that I've had on the shelf for quite some time. I love that cover. It's like a cozy winter scene here that is enticing. And yeah, this is a really big book. It's a really, really chunky book. This mass market is just over 1,000 pages. And, you know, when I first started reading White Nights, it took me a minute to get into the language of it. But once I was into the flow, I was really, really, really into it. And so I'm going to read this one just because on every top 10, top 5 list of books you need to read before you can't read anymore. Yeah, The Brothers Karamazov is almost always on there, and it's almost always number one. If it's not Count of Monte Cristo, it's usually this one. So very, very excited to have that in the repertoire. I know what I'm going to do for this book is open my notes app and write every character down and do a little blurb beside them, just so that when I'm reading, I can do a quick glance up, like, who's that again? Yeah. It's something that kind of helps me suck into the stories that much more. If I don't have to do any guessing about who people are, I can just do a quick glance over and be like, oh yeah. So, and that's not something I do before I read it. I do it as I read it. Okay, it's okay. This person's introduced, and then I do like they're this person and that person. It just kind of helps me with the story. Okay, so that is the whole thing. That is the list there of the books. I can't wait to. It's going to be a good year, man. I'm excited for this year. Excited to read books, and you know what I mean. So, thanks for watching this one, and you know what I mean. Have a great day.